Well, I went raw the day after Thanksgiving. I knew I was going to. I'd made the decision a month before, but I'd been invited to my sister's house for Thanksgiving dinner and decided that I was already vegan, but there were plenty of vegan dishes and there was going to be salad. And I thought, I'll have this one last hurrah with my family and then that'll be it. And that was late November. I don't know what day the day was, but it was the day after Thanksgiving, November 1991. And so that was, well, in November it'll be 25 years ago. It's a slightly different world than it was 25 years ago. 25 years ago when I went raw, there was no Facebook, there was no YouTube, there was no Google. Most people weren't online, didn't have an email address. We're really living in a very different world because, I mean, this is the digital age. And, you know, for young people, maybe even someone your age, you were alive then, but you were very young and probably not conscious of any of these things. And so back then, we simply weren't able to be connected in the way we are now. I spent my first year as a raw vegan not knowing any other raw vegans. I didn't know a single one. It was me. And you know, there are people who think it's difficult because there's only 20 other people interested in raw veganism in their town or whatever it might be. I didn't know a single person at first. I did wind up connecting with a couple of people, and we actually created a group and began to offer monthly potlucks. They were at my house. Of the three of us, I was the only one that had the space we could use. I had a little 4-bedroom house, so we would meet there every month, and that grew to 40 or 50 people, and we did it for about 5 years, and then I wound up eventually moving. But that back then, that was kind of the only way to make things happen. We'd actually go put flyers up in health food stores and vegetarian and vegan restaurants, and I'm sure most of the people looking at them were like, you know, raw food, what's that? It's a different world today, and it's a different world largely because of the digital age. And I'm grateful for it because, you know, after going through some difficult economic times, losing everything I had, starting over, when the economy was still pretty much in the toilet, it's really because of YouTube and the ability to connect with people online that Tanglewood has been able to thrive again. And you know, it's a wonderful thing, I think. I now am able to connect with people all over the world, and we've actually served clients here in, I've actually lost track, but I believe it's 78 or 79 countries we've had come join us here for an average of 5 or 6 weeks. That would have never been possible 25 years ago because there was simply no way to reach those people. You know, today it's relatively easy. I don't have to work at it. We just put videos up and they show up. The world has changed. There will always be, have always been, from the beginning there were people out there who saw an opportunity to market products. And so superfoods and supplements and whatever it was, those folks have been out there. I was just looking at some video of one of these people, a master salesman, no doubt. You know, there are people that would suggest that folks like him have helped a lot of people by introducing them to a movement. Perhaps that's true. You know, perhaps some of those people come in and recognize that there's a better way, and perhaps some of those people come in that way and get stuck in those beliefs. I'm not really sure which of those things is true. I've always realized that that wasn't the way. I mean, I had this simple idea that we could never improve on nature. And so that if we could simply figure out what was natural for our bodies, that was going to be the best we could do. But those people were out there then, they're out there now. There's, I know at least 2 or 3 people who are very wealthy men because they have built themselves an empire selling this kind of stuff. That's fine. You know, the market has shifted in terms of raw vegan restaurants. Back then, well, there wasn't one. I take that back. There was one, in the US that I was aware of back then. And then they began to grow. There are now probably dozens, if not more than 100 in the United States alone. That's been quite a shift. And again, I think this is perhaps a much more positive step, because it's an easy entry point. It's an easy access point for the average person. I mean, it's going to attract people who are probably interested in their health, even if they're not fully committed and ready to change over to a raw vegan diet. It may be interesting enough to get them to walk in, open their eyes to what's possible. And so I actually support those places, and I'm happy to see them, even though I prefer not to partake of the food very often. If it's complex, I prefer to keep it as simple as possible, because that's what works for me. Then there are these movements, and this is always the case as well, where the raw vegan diet, especially a fruit-based diet, a simple version of this diet, the way that you and I prefer to do it, this is understandably considered radical by the vast majority of the population. And so there are many people who adopt it. And it's interesting to see how people jump in, and after they've been doing it for a month, they begin to market their expertise to other people, and they proclaim their lifelong raw vegan-ness, whatever their status. And then 1, 2, 3, or 6 years later, they're not doing it anymore, and they're bashing it because now they have to. It's not enough to say, well, it didn't work for me, or I wasn't able to do it. They have to have some reason why it didn't work. And so they often wind up bashing it and promoting something else as better, even though in most cases, to even the casual observer, you can see these folks are declining in their health and vitality. You can see them gaining weight, you can see them not looking as good, not clearly being as energetic. I know a lot of people have strong reactions, negative reactions to some of these people and what they're up to. To me, it's just kind of part of the circus. This is just life. This is how it is. It's always going to be this way. And there's nothing wrong with that. Ultimately, each person, if you're watching this now, you have to decide for yourself. Does anything I'm saying make sense to you? Does it resonate for you? Are you willing to be honest with yourself and admit if it does, even if it might be inconvenient? Because a lot of people, I think, are discarding truth in favor of convenience and maybe what's familiar. Ultimately, everybody has to decide for themselves what makes sense and what they choose to believe. And there's room for all opinions and all choices. My appeal has always been to those people who are interested in maximizing their health, because for some people, many people, as long as it's raw vegan, that's good enough. And it's true that a lot of people are going to see significant shift in their health by giving up animal products and cooked foods. But for other people, that won't be enough. That won't get them where they want to go. And for anybody that's truly committed to maximizing their potential, to becoming the best version of themselves that they can be, and doing everything with the amazing gifts that they have, that'll never be enough, because we have to get the garbage out first, and then we have to make sure that the raw vegan diet that we're eating, it's not just raw and vegan, it's actually optimal for our bodies. I know you're aware of this. I'm sure you've had the same experience I have, and that is having a raw vegan meal and feeling like crap afterward. And so just being raw and vegan is not enough. It requires more than that.